Hi, we're J&J Fantasy Flyers. I'm Joey.
And I'm Jason. And we're here to help you soar above the competition.
Soar above the competition. Here we are. First of all, I'd like to tell you it's our first annual draft special. We're glad to bring you our rankings, our sleepers, good old fantasy football stuff. Don't worry about it here. There's no politics, no national anthem protests, nothing along them lines. Just good old-fashioned fantasy football like how it used to be back in the old days. Right, Jay?
That's right. Can't beat nothing but good old-fashioned fantasy advice.
Let's start this off here. Just want to tell you guys here, feel free to visit us on our Facebook page, J&J Fantasy Flyers. It's Flyers, F-L-Y-E-R-S, because it sounds cooler. Right, Jay?
Right. It's always the best way to spell it.
All right, Jay, so we're going to go ahead and get this started here. Why don't we tell the folks a little bit about ourselves, how long we've been playing. I know myself, I've been playing with my father since about 1996, 97-ish. A couple fan favorites that I've had on my team quite some time. Who's one of yours?
It's a long time, I'll tell you what. My first time really getting into fantasy serious when I was about 2015. And I really,
2015?
Yeah, 2015, man. I really got into it hard.
2 years ago.
Yeah. I'm kind of a big deal.
Kind of a big deal.
Kind of a big deal.
I got that. You guys listen to me when it comes to everything you need to know. That's all you really need to know on that one. But Jason, how about we give these people a blast from the past, a name that they might not have heard, too recent when it comes to fantasy football.
Well, you've probably heard of him kind of recently, but not for fantasy football reasons. That's O.J. Simpson.
O.J. Simpson.
My man, the Juice.
The Juice.
You cannot,
the Juice is loose, right?
The Juice is loose.
He is loose.
I don't know how many fantasy leagues he won me back in the day. So the Juice was loose just all over the field, man.
So you're going to tell me O.J. won you a lot of leagues?
More than one.
Can you tell the viewers what year you were born?
Well, I think that's kind of irrelevant to our conversation right now. I was born in 84-ish.
And OJ's last year, I believe, was 79.
Well, tomato. So
fair enough. I was gonna go with Joe Horn myself. Loved him as a wide receiver. We all remember his touchdown celebration where he grabs his cell phone out, dials a phone call after he scored 4 touchdowns.
Classic.
Very classic. You don't get them anymore like that.
Well, no, you don't.
Jay, I'll tell you what. Why don't we give him a real guy that used to help your fantasy teams win back in the day?
One of my favorites, and I think a lot of people would agree with me, Clinton Portis.
Clinton Portis, he was very tough. Did you like him more in Denver or Washington?
He was a Denver guy to me. Always was, will be. That's where he put up some of his best numbers. And not to mention, over a 6-year span, he did not have less than 1,600 total yards.
Every season?
Not every season. Over a 6-year span there, when he was in his prime, the guy was just unstoppable.
I'll tell you what, I've had Clinton Portis myself a couple times as well. That's a good pick, but I think I'm going to one-up you there on the running back level. I'm going to go with Larry Johnson. Larry Johnson, grandmama himself, following Priest Holmes. Those pretty good times back then. Would have won a fantasy championship with my father. I'm sure he remembers if we would have played Larry Johnson, but that's besides the point. So let's see here.
Woulda, coulda, but didn't.
Yeah, that's one of the things. But hey, that's why you guys are tuned into us. We're going to make sure that them mistakes don't happen to you. You can learn from some savvy vets.
Woulda, coulda, but did. That's what we're here to do.
Just remember, because we're helping you soar above the competition.
Above the competition.
Alrighty, so here at J&J Fantasy Flyers, what we're made of and what we would like to do is we're not going to laundry list our rankings and tell you, this guy's ranked 5, this guy's ranked 7, yada yada.
It's boring. Who wants to hear that mumbo jumbo?
We're going to basically give you the nuts and bolts as to guys who we're going to draft, why we want to draft them, this and that, to where you guys know by the time you guys get to your drafts and you're good to go that this is who I'm taking, this is why I'm taking them.
And who you're not taking.
Like Zeke Elliott.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's always a value where you're going to take anybody. But there's some guys you want to wait and wait and wait.
And wait a little bit more.
Just wait a little bit longer.
So what we're going to do here is, like I said, we have our Facebook page. It's J&J Fantasy Flyers. We also have a Twitter.
At Fantasy Flyers. Flyers with a Y. Because it's just better that way.
F-L-Y-E-R-S. Visit us on Facebook. We will be posting our entire rankings if you would like to take a look. We're just going to go through, kind of ask a couple questions. We're going to compare our rankings. And we have our rankings here written down on the sheet. good to go. Other than that, we're gonna go ahead and dive right into this here. Basically, on this episode, it's our draft special, so we're gonna get into the nuts and bolts, the meat of your guys' fantasy team. We're gonna give you a little bit of sleepers, a little bit of dynasty analysis as well. Also, going forward, a couple of the sneak preview for the next couple episodes. Our next one's going to be our dynasty special, and then we're going to follow that up with a sleeper special because, hey, Jason, if there's one thing people like, that's sleepers, right?
Oh yeah, sleepers. They'll win you your league if you pick the right one.
Big if. Don't listen to Jason. So, going forward here, I say we dive right into the quarterback list. I see here that, Jason, the top 5, for both of us is pretty much close to being the same thing. Aaron Rodgers pretty much the consensus number 1. You don't need anybody to really tell you this.
It's Aaron Rodgers. That's all you need to know.
Pretty much. You could lock him in for 40 touchdowns. You're good to go. Alrighty, Jason. So let's see here. With the top 5 quarterback list here, out of the top 5, who do you like? If you had to draft on your team.
Well, I'll tell you what, Joey. As much as I like all 5 of those quarterbacks there in my top 5, which would be Rodgers, Brady, Breeze, Luck, Russell Wilson, is that I'm probably not going to end up with any of them because one of the main philosophies here at Fantasy Flyers is we do not draft quarterbacks early.
You just can't. And I agree with Jason on this one. There's so much depth at the position. You can really get, a value pick later on down the line. I mean, for example, here, Blake Bortles finished in the top 10 last year. Blake Bortles.
Blake Bortles.
Come on now. So,
and not to mention, last year there were 40 different quarterbacks that finished as a QB1. And by QB1, I meant finished in the top 12 quarterbacks. He was a starting quarterback on any team going as a 12-team league. 40 different quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's more quarterbacks than teams. I don't even know how that happens.
I don't. Probably Blaine Gabbert, Colin Kaepernick.
Well, they had 8 quarterbacks in Cleveland, so...
Yeah, that's true. But Cleveland actually had a top 12 quarterback. That's a shocker. That's a good one. That's a good one. So, pretty much, don't get us wrong. We'd love to have Aaron Rodgers. I personally have him in my dynasty team. He's awesome to have. Love watching him. But where you're going to have to draft Aaron Rodgers, it's really not... You're better off taking a running back or wide receiver. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. You're just... The value you're giving up on, you're losing a top running back for a quarterback. And the difference between the top quarterback and the 12th quarterback is just... The difference is it's not worth it.
Basically...
There's just so many quarterbacks. You could take one at any point. Even if you don't take one, you could stream quarterbacks, and like I said, there was 40 different quarterbacks last year that finished as the number 1.
And it's a lot easier to stream and play matchups with quarterbacks than it is per se a wide receiver or running back.
Well, a lot of teams don't carry 2 quarterbacks.
That's true. That's true.
They're not holding on to those Blake Bortles.
They're holding on. So definitely, I'm definitely with you on that. I would, say as well that you can't really draft a top 5. You shouldn't really end up with any of the top 5 on your team. But hey, if you could get Aaron Rodgers in the 5th, 6th round,
I was just gonna say,
by all means,
yes.
All means. Now, if everybody drafted the way that we do, well, there's not enough championships to go around for that. But that's what we feel is your best formula to go. For example. Looking at my list here, you can get, Marcus Mariota, who I'm high on. Love Mariota myself. I got him inside my top 10. Marcus Mariota goes on my love list. Absolutely love him. Man crush. I love all the Titans this year. I believe Mariota has a fantastic season. Jay, would you agree with me?
I would agree with you that he has a decent year. I wouldn't exactly say I love him. I just don't think the opportunities are there in Tennessee. It's a run-first team. It's the smash-mouth football. Going to run the ball down your throat. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples here. Is Mariota only had 451 attempts last year. The number 10 quarterback, as we already mentioned, was Blake Bortles, who had 625 attempts last year. Those attempts, even if it goes up another 100, doesn't put him close to the attempts he needs to be a top 10 quarterback. And the completion percentage believe it or not, is only 2% different between the two from last year. I just don't see it happening.
But also, I mean, I understand where you come from with the run-first offense, but let's put it like this. This is Mariota's third year. You know as well as I do, third-year quarterbacks, it's kind of make it or break it, right? Third, fourth year. Not to mention, let me give you some stats here real quick. From week 5 to about week 12, Mariota was in the top 3, top 4 quarterbacks.
That was also probably one of the easiest schedules ever played by a quarterback.
Fair enough. But he still put up the points. I mean, you're going to want to destroy the teams that you do.
An NFL game is an NFL game. I guess you can't take that away from him, but they were...
I mean, he is playing in the NFC South. I know Jacksonville got better. Houston's defense pretty tough, but he does play in Indy twice a year. Let's face it. Screen door in a submarine right there.
No bueno.
So, I mean, with that being said, I'm a huge Marcus Mariota fan. I feel as if you can get Mariota anytime after the 8th, 9th, 10th round, maybe somewhere like that. If you could get him that late, I think he's going to finish within the top 5. I really do. And, you don't have to spend that early 2nd, 3rd round pick on Aaron Rodgers. That's me. Jay, give me one of your guys, one of your favorite quarterbacks this year.
Someone I'm really going after, and I guess not really going after, but waiting for, is Andy Dalton.
Andy Dalton.
The
Red Rocket.
old Rocket himself, a little ginger man. He had one of his lowest touchdown years last year. His career average is 25 touchdowns a year. Last year he threw for 18. That's going to go back to the norm this year. Not to mention he got John Ross, the deep threat, Joe Mixon in the backfield. Now they got to respect
Tyler Boyd in the 2nd year as well.
Tyler Boyd in the 2nd, another year of rapport in there.
AJ Green's healthy.
AJ
Green healthy.
Exactly. AJ Green was on a record-setting year last year. He missed 1,000 yards receiving by like 20 yards after 10 games. If he had been to those last 6 games, who knows what had happened? And they got to respect the running game now. And Eifert is going to be healthy for the whole season, who was just a touchdown hog. I think he's going to go back towards, and it's not like he can't give you those top finishes because he finishes a top 5 quarterback once already. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago.
So let me ask you this, Jay. Would you be comfortable with Andy Dalton as your number 1 starter on your team?
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I'm shooting for, is to get Andy Dalton as my number 1 starter.
Give the people, what round do you think would be a good round that you would start going for Andy Dalton?
It depends on how your draft goes, but if Andy Dalton is hanging around there in the 10th, 11th round, I say you jump on him. Even sooner, really. If there's a run on quarterbacks going, you think he might not make it? 8th, 9th?
Well, let me ask you, kind of another question here, going with the whole waiting on quarterbacks theory. Let's say we miss that run. Let's say we're on the wrong end of that run, and quarterbacks just go, because as well as I do, like tight ends, quarterbacks are kind of trendy. Once one starts going, the dominoes start falling. What happens if you miss out and you can't get Andy Dalton? You got a backup plan? Maybe we go a little bit deeper on, just in case? Or is Andy Dalton kind of your last, the last one that you would like for a number 1?
Well, he's not the last one because I like him a lot. He's just, his ADP compared to where I have him ranked is so far apart, is why I'm waiting so long.
Is Andy Dalton's not even getting drafted in some leagues?
I believe he's probably not. I think he's really getting put down way too much. But one of the last guys I'm looking for is Tyrod Taylor. I know Sammy Watkins is gone. He just offers so much in the run game. And you got to think for every 60 yards he rushes for is basically like another touchdown pass.
So you're going to tell me the guy that just threw 2 interceptions and had like the worst completion percentage I've ever seen, you would be okay with being your number 1 quarterback is Tyrod Taylor in Buffalo?
You mean Tyrod who just did this in a preseason game?
It's also the Tyrod that threw 6 interceptions in the Pro Bowl that 1 year.
Now you're just giving me stats from games that don't even matter.
I'm just saying. You know as well as I do, especially the fact that we're from Buffalo. There's a fire sale going on. It's a dumpster fire.
And that should give you a warning as if I'm from Buffalo and I am talking about a Buffalo player, then you should probably pay attention because...
I guess. Well, let me ask you this here. On our list here, I'm down on Dak Prescott this year. Would you take Andy Dalton over Dak Prescott, or do you like Dak?
No, I'd take Andy Dalton over Dak. But I think Dak's going before Andy Dalton anyways.
Oh, all day long.
I think Dak's he's due for a regression.
The sophomore slump.
And not even a sophomore slump. I mean, the guy put up one of the most efficient seasons in NFL history. It's just not going to happen again. He's not going to get out of the season with 4 interceptions. And
defenses know how to defend him a little bit more.
And not to mention Dez. I mean, they have one of the hardest schedules to face for secondaries. I mean, the Giants have a good secondary now. The Eagles have Darby on top of their already good secondary. Washington has a very good secondary. It's a tough year. I think they play Seattle. I think they play the NFC West. I believe this year. They're gonna be.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I'm down on Dak Prescott this year. You know, Zeke getting hurt does not help anything there. You know, we can talk about that offensive line all we want, but
He didn't get hurt. He got suspended, but I know what you're saying.
oh yeah, suspended for the 8 games. In the fantasy world, it's all the same. He's not going to be there for 7 weeks.
Field,
so, might as well have gotten hurt. Feel a little bit better about it because who knows? At least we know when he's coming back. But who are you down on this year? I know I'm down on Dak. You got to be down on somebody that most people like.
I'm not really down on the guy, but I could see Kirk Cousins maybe not having the type of year everyone's projecting. I mean, the guy lost 2 1,000-yard receivers. And history would tell you losing 1,000-yard receiver is not good for the quarterback.
But he added another, and Jamison Crowder. I mean, we could all say he's got the potential. He showed it last year. He disappeared during the fantasy playoffs. So
yeah, but
trust me,
he did. And I get Crowder. And I think Crowder's he's one of my sleeper picks as a wide receiver, as a PPR guy. But it's just the rapport's not there with Pryor. I mean, I can see a year where he's going to go down. I mean, how many years is this guy going to play on a franchise tag? And
that's another thing, though. Maybe he's playing for a contract, playing for some money. I personally, I got Cousins finishing in my top 10.
I mean, I have Cousins in my top 10 too. But if I have to pick a guy that could fall out of the top 10, it's Cousins.
Okay, I'll give you that. Let me ask you a quick question here, just so we kind of see where you're at. What about Derek Carr? Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins. If you had to pick one, that was your choice. Where are you going?
See, it's tough, really, because I like Cousins. I like Carr. I mean, they're ranking. I have them ranked fairly far apart. I would probably get Carr just because he's going so much later. And at the end of the year, I really don't think there's going to be that much of a difference. I really do like Carr. If he can stay healthy and he can come back, I think they have a lot to prove. You got Lynch in the backfield now.
You don't think Lynch takes touchdowns away from Carr in that offense? I mean, let's face it.
No, they're just going to score more touchdowns with Lynch in the offense.
Now, so let me ask you this. We'll go back to your first point. Would you take Andy Dalton over Kirk Cousins?
I mean, to put simply, no, because Dalton's not going before Cousins.
Fair enough, but let's say you get them in the same round. Are you that high on Dalton?
If Cousins and Dalton are staring at me in the face, yeah, I'll probably take Dalton.
You would take Dalton over Kirk Cousins?
Probably take Dalton.
Okay.
I have him higher in my ranking, so why wouldn't I?
I hear you. I mean, I'm gonna totally disagree with you on that one. I'll take Kirk Cousins. You're getting Terrell Pryor. You got Jordan Reed. I mean, they got Crowder.
Crowder.
You know, Josh Doxson. You know, he was the #1 pick last year. He's got the weapons. Not to mention that he's playing for a contract, man. Contract year. Kirk Cousins.
For a contract every year of his career.
I like me some Kirk Cousins this year. I think Kirk Cousins is a pretty top pick.
I can't really argue with it. I agree, but I'm just saying.
No, I understand. If he were to fall, I definitely get that as well. I'll tell you what, Jay. Let's get a little bit deeper for the people. Let's say they're in a 2-quarterback league or something along them lines, and you got to kind of pick bottom of the barrel. Who you got for a real deep sleeper this year?
I got my man, Brian Hoyer.
Brian Hoyer,
yes, I know.
Steven still
Sounds like he will be your starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers this year.
For what, like 2 weeks?
No, for the whole year.
For the whole year.
He's handpicked by Shanahan, who Hoyer had his best year.
Handpicked out of who? I mean, who else could they have got?
I mean, Kaepernick for one.
Well, thank God.
Wait, you get my point. They brought Hoyer in for a reason. Shanahan likes him. He had not one of his best years. He had his best year under Shanahan in Cleveland.
That is a good point.
I mean, Hoyer is a decent quarterback who he always finds he finds his guy, and he likes to stick him with the ball. And this year, that didn't come out right. Stick him with the ball.
We're gonna coin that phrase.
Oh, anyways.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, this kind of brings me into my next point. I guess I could see with Brian Hoyer. He's not my pick. If I'm picking that low, God bless me, because who knows? My season's probably over by that point. But I'm going to give you a different name. A guy who's done it before, who's had a lot of garbage fantasy points that we both agree. I really, really think that he almost won me a championship, or he got me to the championship game because Aaron Rodgers got hurt. That's Josh McCown. I think Josh McCown, come on, it's the Jets. Hackenberg's hitting reporters on the sideline with his passes. I mean, let's really, think about it here. I can see Josh McCown putting up a Blake Bortles type year. When Blake Bortles was a top 5 fantasy quarterback, why was he a top 5 quarterback, Jay?
Blake Bortles?
Yeah, Blake Bortles. Garbage time. Garbage time is still points in fantasy football. The Jets arguably could be beat by Clemson. I mean, let's face it. I think Clemson could come in and beat the Jets. Clemson. Alabama.
But it's just...
Western Kentucky. Hey, you never know.
I think it's just that bad that it doesn't matter who's throwing the ball.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
Who was the quarterback last year?
Well, you want me to name all 6? I mean, it was Bryce Petty.
What?
Geno Smith, I think, was there for a
Was
little
any
bit.
of them even startable?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you. I don't think Todd Bowles even knows who his quarterback is. It's going to be a long year for Jets, but hey, AFC East, go Dolphins.
Garbage time is garbage time.
Garbage time is points. I mean, Josh McCown has done it before. When Cutler got hurt and McCown filled in, he was my quarterback when Rodgers went down. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, hey, if you're down that low, I feel as if you could have worse people, Brian Hoyer, than Josh McCown. Is just kind of where I'm going with that. Now,
it's real cheap.
Let's bring in, just a little bit of a thing here. Just kind of difference between our rankings. I see that I'm a little bit higher on Cam Newton than you are.
A little bit. I got him at 15. You have him at
6.
6?
I think Cam Newton's a long shot at getting into the top 5 this year.
I mean, in person, I don't think there's that much of a difference between 6 and 15. But my personal opinion is he's not going to run the ball. And that's what makes him fantasy relevant. And, I mean, they brought in Christian McCaffrey. And they brought in
Curtis Samuel.
Yeah,
The
Samuel.
flyer out of Ohio State.
Ohio
But
State.
all these weapons that they're bringing in, that's just more things that Cam Newton can throw and score points, frankly.
Those are weapons he can now dump the ball off to instead of running.
That's it's receiving yards.
Or-
They're points, passing yards.
Or intercept, or incomplete. Because, think and dunk is not his thing. He's not the most accurate quarterback.
Correct, he's a down.
And we never seen him do this before. Can he do it? I
What do
don't
you
know.
mean you never seen him do it before? He was the number 1 quarterback in
We've
2015.
never seen him play this type of football.
Well, do you really think it's going to change that much? Maybe they still have the downfield vertical passing game, and as a check down, they just dump it to McCaffrey. Jonathan Stewart's still there.
They didn't invest their first and second round as a just in case for a check down.
You don't think so? You don't.
They're going to be a large part of their game. They don't believe in Kelvin Benjamin. They don't believe in Devin Funchess. They obviously didn't believe in Ted Ginn because he's gone.
I can't really argue with that one. That guy's got stones for hands. But anyways, I mean,
He's got rockets for feet.
that is true. That is true. He can run, but it doesn't help you if you can't catch. But let's put it like this, though. I mean, they're still going to throw the ball downfield. I mean, Cam Newton could, potentially have it. I mean, he's done it before. If it wasn't, one could argue if it wasn't for his shoulder and the injuries last year, that that might have prohibited him from doing that. Wouldn't you agree?
I mean, yes, I can see a world where he has a good passing year, but his rushing numbers are going to drop too significantly. It's his rushing numbers that made him a top 5 running back.
You don't think that if Carolina's on the 1 yard line, that Cam Newton's not going to punch it in? Come on now. He could get 6, 7 rushing touchdowns
I
this
don't
year.
think they're going to risk it like that. I'm not going to say they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it as much.
But do you think Cam Newton is willing to take the ball out of his own hands and hand it off when he could do it himself?
It's not up to him.
I disagree. I think Cam Newton could arguably end up top 5 pick. And if you could get him 6th, 7th round, I think you should jump on it.
Jump on it.
Not to mention, I think we both agree that Carolina has one of the easiest fantasy seasons this year.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. They got that going for them, I guess.
So, I mean, there's a high upside, I say, with Cam Newton. For the price tag, a lot of people take in Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, 2nd, 3rd round, 6-point touchdown leagues. You could even, arguably say that Aaron Rodgers sneaks into the 1st round. Maybe.
If you believe in Cam Newton, I think he's going for a good value this year as opposed to last year where his price was ridiculous.
And by all means, people, when we give you these rankings and this and that, there's a round, like Jason said it earlier, that we expect to take all these players in. Just because, he's high on Andy Dalton, please don't take him in the 2nd round. Please, please. I mean, just don't. Just don't. Don't overthink it. It's all about getting value at the
Probably
position.
middle of the 3rd would be good for Dalton.
I hope that's sarcasm.
That's just a complete joke, obviously.
So, this is Marcus Mariota. Now, let's be honest here. One more time here, we're going to go with the love for Marcus Mariota. He's my man crush, that's for sure.
Where'd you get that from?
I just pulled it off
Top
down
of
here.
your bed?
Yeah. So, hey, what can I say? Marcus Mariota, you guys are going to hear his name probably 10 more times in this episode. If you can get Mariota in the 8th, 9th, 10th round, please, please, please jump on it. He's going to be this year's Matt Ryan. And hey, that's why you guys are watching. You want to know who Matt Ryan is this year. And that's Marcus Mariota.
Still Matt Ryan. But anyways, we don't have enough time in this show for me to prove you wrong about Marcus Mariota.
Well, it'll be on.
So we'll move on to...
It will be on Facebook. So we can all come look back at this. At the end of the season, I can prove to Jason for Marcus Mariota. Let me ask you this here, Jason. Would you be willing to bet? We can make a bet. Let's just say ice bucket challenge. Bucket of ice water. That Marcus Mariota doesn't finish within, let's say, top 6. I'll give you top 6.
Top 6.
Would you be willing to take that bet right now on camera for all of Facebook, Twitter, everybody to see?
I will take that bet. Marcus Mariota will not be a top 6 quarterback.
I say top 6.
Ice bucket
Put it
challenge.
in the books. Put it in the books. Bucket of ice water. Let's move on to running backs. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Alrighty, so going to running backs here with the transition. I say there's really a clear cut, number 1 and number 2 this year, and then I'd say we both agree that there's a drop off, right?
Absolutely.
If you had the first pick in any draft, PPR standard, really doesn't matter. You taking Johnson or Bell? Who you got?
I think right now, at this point, it's got to be Johnson. It's got to be old David Johnson.
It's tough to argue with the year that he had last year. However, I'm going to go with Bell. I think Bell's the number 1. If we look at Bell's stats last year, really, let's just look at Bell's stats. I want to say he finished with maybe 60 points behind David Johnson. And he missed 5 games.
Absolutely. He averaged more points per game than David Johnson. But the team has already came out and said, Arizona Cardinals, they're going to make it a point to help David Johnson get his 1,000 yards rushing, 1,000 yard receiving. That's a a running back and receiver in one position. David Johnson, he has no question marks. Le'Veon Bell hasn't even been to training camp this year.
But come on, it's Le'Veon Bell. Who's done it for longer?
Oh, okay, I agree, but he still has injuries that are hanging over his head. He has suspensions. One mess up, this guy could be out for the whole season. We just don't know what to expect from Bell, and I can't argue his talent. And if he didn't have all these questions, Bell would be my number 1. But when you're talking about this finite type of stuff, you got to nitpick, and that's where my nitpick brings me down to is David Johnson over Le'Veon Bell.
And don't get us wrong, I believe we both agree that Johnson and Bell should go 1 and 2 in every draft that you're
Any
in.
format, any draft.
I mean, you could make a case for Antonio Brown, but even in a PPR league, Bell and Johnson shine above the rest. However, I'll take Bell number 1. I have him on my Dynasty team as well. You guys are going to hear us reference Dynasty as well. We're both in the same league Dynasty-wise. I got a championship. He doesn't, in case anybody wants to know.
It's only been 3 years.
Still, I would say Le'Veon Bell. I mean, he's in Pittsburgh. There's more weapons around him. The quarterback play, I would argue, Ben Roethlisberger is a little bit better than Carson Palmer. They got Antonio Brown. They can't just key in on on Le'Veon Bell like they probably can with David Johnson. I mean,
Yeah, then yes and no. I mean, they still have Larry Fitzgerald there.
but I mean,
Carson Palmer is not an incompetent quarterback, and I think he's going to have a little bit better of a year than he did last year. And you got Bruce Arians calling the plays. I mean, he's one of the best play callers, coaches of our recent generation. So
I'll give you that. But I mean, going forward, once again, I mean, Le'Veon Bell's been revolutionary the running back position. I mean, just the way he waits before he accelerates. I mean, nobody does it like him. And I mean, with David Johnson, I don't know. I would still go Bell. I mean, yes, you definitely got to look into see when he's holding out and training camp and everything like that. Even though I did see a report today that said that the Steelers expect him back by the beginning of the year. And let's face it, how many times has a player really held out into the first week of the season?
well, let's take that for what it is, and the Steelers are expecting him back because they want him back. I don't think there's been any communication there because Coach Town has already said that he has not talked to Bell. He has no idea when Bell is expected to be back, and he needs to be there now. And I know Bell, and I'm probably not too worried yet, but I'm taking it into consideration. But if it comes 1 week before the first game and he's still not there, I think you need to seriously reconsider if he's even going to be there for week 1. And he wants to be paid as a top receiver and top running back, and I think he's pretty serious about it because he knows he gets hurt like a twig. Guy's gonna go down.
Yeah, but they're fluke injuries. I mean, come on now. I mean, like we said, Johnson Bell, they're going 1-2. Don't overthink it. Stay the course. Whichever one you go with, I don't think you're.
I mean, you can flip a coin.
I mean, if you're picking number 2, do you really care who goes number 1?
Tell you what, if you're picking number 1, trade back to number 2 and just take who was left over. You don't got to make that decision.
Yeah, that's probably your easiest bet. Even though I would go Bell. But then brings us to another little bit of a different twist here because after Johnson and Bell, it's really anybody's ball game, right?
Yeah, it's really kind of wide open. I think the consensus is LaShawn McCoy is being the number 3 running back. And I mean, while we're talking about LaShawn McCoy, I might bring up the fact that he is also my first round bust potential at running back.
LaShawn McCoy, the guy that we just both agreed on is most likely number 3.
LaShawn McCoy, the big guy. He's got over 2,100 touches, and I think a lot of people might know, if you don't know, that the career number is 2,000 when running backs start to break down. I mean, he's going into his year 28 year season. I mean, he's Father Time's catching up.
Not to mention the dumpster fire that's going on in Buffalo.
Dumpster fire in Buffalo. Sammy Watkins is gone. They don't have any other real threats. I mean, Zay Jones is a rookie. He might be something, he might not. He's still a rookie. They're going to stack the box. This is not a knock on McCoy. It's a knock on how many times he has touched the ball, his body's taking a beating, and just the situation in Buffalo. If you take McCoy and even give him just Sammy Watkins back, and I believe I don't knock him down as much as I have, and I still have him as my number 3 running back.
Just a little bit of caution there with that pick. But no, here's the thing, and I'd say we both agree. After Johnson and Bell, you're probably not taking McCoy 3rd overall, right?
No, absolutely not. There's depending on your opinion, you're 3, 4, maybe even 5 receivers. In my case, I think I have 5 or 6 receivers, but I'm a receiver-heavy type of guy.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm running back. I mean, I guess if I were to have to go into it, I like taking a running back in the first round for the simple fact there's not too many of them. If you're sitting at the 3rd pick and you take Antonio Brown or Odell Beckham, Mike Evans, whoever your personal preference is, that's all well and cool. But look at the running backs that are going to come back there to you. I mean, you're going to have your choice maybe between a Lamar Miller, which don't get me wrong, I think we both like Deontay Freeman or Foreman a little bit later on in drafts this year. I mean, he could take some work. I mean, then you got your question marks with the rookie running backs like Leonard Fournette, Joe Mixon. I mean, Joe Mixon's going in about the 5th, 6th round. Fournette's going about 2nd. Even Todd Gurley, which I personally have a man crush on Gurley this year. But do you really want to mortgage your entire running back position on that to get an Antonio Brown?
All the mid to late round running backs all have question marks. And it's the same like you said. Do you really want to put it on? And I think their question marks are a lot bigger than McCoy's. McCoy's is just father time. He didn't show it anything last year of slowing down. And I mean, is he gonna take just a step over the cliff and that's it, or is it gonna be progressive? I mean, been talking about Frank Gore falling off this proverbial cliff for the past 5 years, and the guy still finishes the top 12 running back every year. So I mean, is McCoy that? Is he gonna do that? I don't know. I don't know if I want him on my team the year he takes that fall.
Yeah, it's not worth the risk. I guess I understand that. And, I mean, so we talked a lot about, McCoy's kind of the number 3, but and I think that speaks to the depth of the running back, first round talent wise, right?
Absolutely. He's going to be first round. He should be first round. Depending on how you like your receivers, he should be after Brown, Julio, OBJ, Evans, Jordy, AJ, if you want them before him or not. I mean, however you want to work your rankings is up to you. I would take him after probably AJ Green, Jordy, before Evans. I think I would take LeSean McCoy.
And I think, like we said, McCoy's obviously a first round talent, especially with the talent in the running back pool this year. But I would say just have a backup plan. I'm not a firm believer in anybody in Buffalo, to be perfectly honest with you, just with the dumpster fire that's going on.
CJ Spiller was one thing.
Yeah, CJ Spiller.
I know.
I mean, Freddie Jackson. I mean, come on. Does Fred Jackson do anything anyplace else? But Buffalo loves him. I mean, definitely going forward with that. So, I mean, yeah, I guess I agree with you. I guess if you do draft, really any of the running backs towards the late end of the first round or anybody that's not named Johnson or Bell, you should probably grab a backup plan there. Say in the next
next couple rounds.
Next couple rounds, just in case, because hey, some if you're in a 2 running back league, absolutely, I feel as if you don't get Johnson and Bell, you have to grab 2 running backs within the first 4 rounds. I mean, now most people, with the 1 running back league, you maybe have the flex option. You kind of do the run and shoot with 1 running back, 3 wide receivers. If you got something like that, you can kind of stretch out, a Shady McCoy and just hope and maybe grab a Ty Montgomery, one of the rookie running backs.
Robert Kelly.
Yep, Rob Kelly. Mark Ingram, even Carlos Hyde. Maybe just kind of back you up, give you a little bit of an insurance policy. And I think we both agreed that that's why we tell you to take the quarterbacks late, because it's more beneficial to your team to grab the depth at running back and wide receiver, because that is the meat and potatoes of your teams. I mean, you really can't go wrong with that. Grab the quarterback late. He's the appetizer. That's basically all that it is.
He's side salad.
Yeah,
Quarterback's a side salad.
I mean, they're nice. They're nice to have. They break up the team, but let's face it. Quarter or running backs and wide receivers, they get hurt the most.
There's just so much volatility at the running back position that you could take any running back in the first 2 rounds, and just the chances of any one of them getting hurt is so high that you need to have that insurance policy. You're not going to have, you're not going to draft Le'Veon Bell and have somebody insurance policy at that same type of production level, but you could have, if you take enough of mid to late round running backs.
C.J. Anderson, LeGarrette Blount.
One of them's going to hit for you. It can save your season. You're not going to lose your whole team. You're not going to ride your whole team on 1 running back in the first 5-6 rounds, because you got to get your quarterback, you got to get your tight end. Don't fill out your starting roster first. You don't want to go down the list. You don't want to go quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end. Oh, boom! Now we're ready to go. It's not how you want to do it.
It's all about depth. If we can teach you anything here today, it's depth. It's grab your quarterbacks late. Don't be the guy that takes Aaron Rodgers. Like we said, if he's there in the 5th round, be honest with you, if Aaron Rodgers is there in the 3rd round, I'm probably gonna prematurely jump on him.
I think the 3rd round is where I would start to look for him. But if he's there in the 3rd round, I'm eyeing up my roster, and I'm eyeing up some other people's rosters in the league, because you always got to look at everyone else's roster, see who they need and what they're looking for. And if he's there in the 3rd round, I mean, it's...
What about Breeze Brady? You looking the same thing, 3rd round? To me, I feel like it's Aaron Rodgers or nothing, right?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
I agree with that as well.
I mean, even Breeze, Brady, maybe in the 4th, 5th. Even though I think Brady or Breeze could very easily finish as the number 1 quarterback this year as well. But I think Aaron Rodgers is just... leaps and bounds.
Yeah, head and shoulders above, I agree.
Yes.
But we'll go into another thing. I'm sure a question that a lot of people are asking, Jay, would be who's that one running back that you're going to take, maybe 9 to 12, going forward. Personally, I believe it's DeMarco Murray. I mean, I've said it before, and I'll get this one more time. I love Marcus Mariota. I love the Titans. Their offensive line, I believe, is the best in the NFL. Sorry, all Cowboys fans. I know I'm going to hear some flack for that. But I think DeMarco Murray he finishes as a top 5 back. If you could get him anywhere from 9 to 12, I feel as if 9's the pick to where you transition back from the wide receivers. I believe there's a run that goes on from wide receivers from 3 to 9. And I think DeMarco Murray is the guy that you should have. Would you agree with me on that one?
I do agree with that. I like Murray a lot, and the only thing I can say against that would be, is this the year they start to give Derrick Henry more involved? Do they just ride Murray till he's dead, or do they try to save him for a couple more years by lessening his load and putting a little more on Henry?
I mean, if we've seen anything, we know that Murray can handle the carries and all of that. I mean, here's another situation that I would say I'm so high on Mariota later on in the draft. I'm not a fan of stacking my running back and quarterback together. I also like Devontae Freeman. I would say Murray and Freeman are almost tied for me. Freeman just got the contract. However, you got Tevin Coleman there. Kyle Shanahan's leaving. I mean, there's a couple different things with that. I mean, there's questions that anybody have.
I really like Freeman myself, but the one guy that I'm really kind of eyeing up there is Jay. And he called a homer pick, being a Dolphins fan, whatever. But, I mean, the guy is just a beast. I mean, he got so much production in the 3 games last year. But when Pouncey is healthy, the guy runs like an animal. They're already giving him play in the passing downs. I see such a high floor for him that I think he's one of the safer picks, especially if Pouncey can stay healthy. One of my bold predictions coming at the end of the show will involve Jay Ajayi. This is how strongly I feel about him this year. That if you can grab him at around the end of the first, beginning of the second, go ahead and do that. Pair him with a wide receiver like Jordy Nelson, who's also slipping into the first, who I believe is also going to finish in the top 5 receivers, and you got yourself a winning team already making.
Yeah, I guess I could agree with that. I mean, Ajayi's a little bit lower on my list. I'd take DeMarco, Freeman. I'd even take, I think, Melvin Gordon over Ajayi as well. However, you got to think, a lot of these guys are going to be gone. And, if you got Ajayi, he could possibly fall.
I do have Freeman above Ajayi. I think Ajayi's ceiling is going to be a little bit higher this year, but I think Freeman has I think he's got a little bit more an area where he's going to finish. I don't think he's really got, barring injury, I think you got a safe floor with him. And I think Ajayi, he's got a fairly safe floor, but his ceiling, I think, is a top running back. So.
No, I understand. And running back's pretty deep this year. I mean, I think we could agree. Obviously PPR, you're going to have a little bit more running backs to choose from than standard leagues. And it does, change my mindset a little bit. In a standard league, I'm probably leaning more towards Melvin Gordon. I foresee him getting 10, 12, 15 touchdowns maybe. Something along them lines. Ajayi as well. He could be more of a standard back than a PPR guy. But going forward here, I mean, I guess the big question that a lot of people are asking is, where do you take Zeke Elliott?
The question of the year, Zeke Elliott. And one thing, I guess I'll start one of my favorite spots to take Zeke, as I've been messing with some mock drafts around here and there, is at the beginning of the end of the second round at that 2-3 turn. If you got the first or second overall pick, and you can land yourself a David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell, you already got that padding there. You don't need Zeke to come out and blow up.
But he's missing 7 weeks. I mean, it's 7 weeks without your second or third overall pick, man, that guts the depth of your team that we're trying to stress here.
You grab Zeke there. You got David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell to make up for it, and then you get one of the guys who's going to turn Amari Cooper,
DeAndre Hopkins, Doug Baldwin, a couple guys like that.
Demaryius Thomas. I mean, anybody like Pryor. I mean, any of those guys going on right there, you can just grab them and be happy with them as your number one receiver.
But let me ask you this:
and
let's
then
say
when Zeke does come back, you have such a deadly 1-2 that you're going to be all you got to do is sneak into the playoffs. You sneak into the playoffs, and you got Zeke and you got Bell or Johnson together. There's no way you don't think you lose in the playoffs.
Yeah, if you get there. I mean, that's a pretty big if. But not. I mean, you're literally going to say that you don't have your second round pick for 8 games. I mean, if you think about it, 8 games, dude, that's a lot. I mean, most teams play, 12, 13 weeks, and the playoffs start either weeks 13 or 14?
If you have Bell and Johnson, I think it'll be okay.
So you're thinking the only time that you could take that is if you had Bell or Johnson. Would you take Zeke in a league where you have to start 2 running backs at that?
I don't think you can.
But in a 1 running back where you only have to start 1 and maybe a flex, you would take the flyer on Zeke?
Yeah, I don't think you can take Zeke in a 2 quarterback league. Or 2 running back league. If you do, I think you're going to lose out on wide receiver because you're going to have to fill out your wide receiver, and you're going to have to take 4 or 5 running backs between rounds 6 or 5, or really it's between 6 and 11. You're going to just take a bunch of running backs and flyers on them and hope a couple of them work out for the first few weeks to get you through. And I just don't know how that's going to work out for the rest of your team. I
mean, let's be honest here. I don't feel comfortable taking Zeke. Zeke will probably not be on any of my teams this year. Unless something happens with the appeal. I mean, obviously, if he sustains the 6-game suspension, if he appeals and he goes down to 2, I mean, then that changes everything. I guess the end of the first round,
Absolutely.
Something like that. But if everything were to stay the way that it is now, I would strongly suggest just staying away. There's so much talent. I mean, I see your point, maybe taking him second, third, just because of wide receiver. There's a lot of depth there. There's a lot of hidden gems that you can grab later. But I would much rather go into it with maybe, let's say you have Bell Johnson, you grab an Amari Cooper, and then maybe even Gronk. Hey, who knows? If you could get Gronk, 3rd round or something like that. I feel as if your team's going to be a lot better that way. And it gives you a little bit more depth. You could come back and maybe grab. I would take, for example, let's say we're at that turn. I would take a Lamar Miller, a Leonard Fournette, a Todd Gurley, a Marshawn Lynch. I would take them guys over Zeke right there. Wouldn't you agree, or no? You would still take Zeke?
I mean, like I said, if you got David Johnson or Le'Veon Bell, I mean, I think I would take the flyer on Zeke and see what happens. Why not? I mean, Lamar Miller.
Why not?
Just so many other questions right there. Well, they're question marks that it could go either way. It's like when Zeke comes back, you know what you're getting when he's there. So
when he's there, though, you're telling me that you would rather have Zeke for what, 5-6 games opposed to Todd Gurley or Lamar Miller for 15-16?
So would you rather have? I'll do this real quick. So you got the number 2 pick. So you're taking
Bell or Johnson.
Right now, ADP's has Bell, according to Fantasy Football Calculator. So you got Le'Veon Bell and T.Y. Hilton, Brandon Cooks, Lamar Miller, Isaiah Crowell, Doug Baldwin.
I'd take all of them over Zeke.
Okay, well, so what are you doing? Running back, receiver, running back? Because you can do Le'Veon Bell, T.Y. Hilton, Lamar Miller.
Which, I would take that over Zeke Elliott any day. Nothing against Zeke, and I love him, he's a good running back, he's behind Dallas's offensive line. But, come on, he's missing 7 weeks. 7 weeks of your season. Who knows? If something happens to Johnson or Bell, it's over. Don't get me wrong. If something happens with them, either way, you're in
trouble.
You're in trouble. But going forward, I don't think it's worth it. I don't think there's a value there to take Zeke. I would like myself maybe end of the 3rd round as the highest possible pick that I could see. I'd be more comfortable fourth or fifth. But let's be honest, there's going to be that one, who knows, he's probably a Cowboys fan. There's going to be that one guy that probably jumps on him a lot quicker than anybody should even think about.
I don't think he's making it out of the second round, maybe getting into the third for the exact reason you just said.
Well, let's say you are one of them people that take Zeke way too early, and you're scrambling for running back depth. I think we could agree here that the rookie running back class is pretty deep.
It's one of the deepest classes I remember in recent history.
I mean, I'd be willing to say, to the point that we can compare it to the wide receiver class that Beckham and Sammy Watkins came out of. How deep that was for wide receiver. I mean, you could arguably say that could be the case with running back.
2013 was it?
Was it?
Or 14, 13 or 14?
Well, I think it was 14.
Yeah. Either way, I mean, it's deep. I mean, you've got Fournette, Cook, and Mason McCaffrey. It's a top four. And
I mean, even late. I mean, guys that aren't even getting drafted. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think we both agree that Kareem Hunt, the backup for Spencer Ware. I mean, Andy Reid loves his running backs, and
well, you got Kareem Hunt, who could potentially take the starting job. Joe Williams, who's been speculation, takes the starting job in San Francisco. Even Jamal Williams in Green Bay.
I like Aaron Jones at Green Bay now too.
Yeah, Aaron Jones too. I mean, either one of those rookies speculating that Ty Montgomery, if he can't hang, that he's out and one of the rookies. I mean, that. Samaje P. Ryan.
Yeah, I like P. Ryan.
He hasn't had the best preseason or training camp, I guess. But I mean,
let's face it. Washington cycles running backs in every year.
Yeah.
So you might as well draft a guy that's third or fourth on the depth chart because he's going to be starting.
Exactly.
But let's go back to Hunt for a minute. Did you hear the story about the general manager for the Chiefs? Scouted him for last year,
story, no.
or I believe because they fired their GM and then made their scouting director, and he stood on the table. He said he Hunt's my guy, and I could see Kareem Hunt being. I think he's gonna take the torch.
Well,
to be honest with you,
that's good to hear, I guess. But maybe that's just somebody that's too close to the situation too. Maybe this guy was hanging out at his college, watching him all the time. It's a good story to know because that is someone that's banging his drum, and this is the guy he wants.
Yeah, not to mention, with the rookie running backs, I'd say that we both agree that Leonard Fournette's probably the prized possession for this year. Dynasty, that's a little bit of a different argument, but I think Tom Coughlin's going to pound and stand on the table. Let me ask you this. Do you think Fournette, would you be comfortable with Fournette as your RB1?
I would have said no probably a month ago, but right now I think I would be okay with it. He's just going to get so much work, and with Blake Bortles...
With Doug Marrone saying that they want Bortles to throw it 0 times.
Yeah, and watching him actually, I don't know if you want to call that throwing the ball or not, but whatever he's doing back there...
He's got Chuck Knobloch syndrome. Little baseball reference here for you.
whatever he's doing back there, man, they're just going to do nothing but hand the ball off. Which I guess you could, say that he's just going to stack the box on him, but at the same time, the guy is just...
he's a beast.
He's just ultra talented running back. He's going to get the workload. The offensive line is very much improved in Jacksonville. Not
to mention, last year they, averaged what I believe it was. They were the best team in the league for yards before contact. And then if you think about that, it's Fournette's game. You give him, 2-3 yards without being touched.
He's going to get you 2-3 more.
Yeah, at least. And if I could see him averaging maybe 4 or 5 yards a carry. Mm-hmm. Something crazy along them lines. It's not unrealistic, and I hold the first pick in our dynasty, rookie draft. Mm-hmm. How do you not take Fournette? Going forward here, his track record at LSU, Leonard Fournette, but here's the thing: in a redraft league, do you feel comfortable with him as your number one? Would you take Fournette over a Marshawn Lynch or a Lamar Miller?
I think I would. Lamar Miller was just so inefficient last year. And
Deontay Foreman too.
He got Deontay Foreman behind him, kind of just waiting for an opportunity. And everyone always said, you give him the ball more, give him the ball more. But maybe Miami was onto something when they weren't feeding him the ball 20 times a game. Maybe he's that guy that gets you production on less touches, and he just can't handle the workload. I think, and I'm pretty sure I talked to you last year that I didn't think he was I thought he was going to get injured. I didn't think he was going to handle the workload at all, but I thought it was going to be a different type of
new quarterback coming in there too. So I mean, Lamar Miller, that's a...
Well, the quarterback situation last year was about as bad as it gets ever in the history of the NFL.
The Jets might push that one this year.
I don't know. I mean, Brock Osweiler, the human centipede was pretty bad.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I mean, so you're saying that you would take Fournette probably over Lamar Miller? What about Lynch, Gurley? Isaiah Crowell. We both like Crowell this year. I mean, I know you probably want to talk about him.
I just don't think they have the same upside as Fournette, and I think that's the only reason why I'm taking him. I think he's got a safe floor as well. I think his floor is a lot higher. His upside is, I think, probably
Upside's a top 5 back.
Top 5.
He could be a top 5
I
back.
think his floor is probably top 12.
Do you think he has a year like Zeke had last year, or is that not safe to say?
I don't think that's a fair comparison, given the situation Zeke walked into. It's not the same situation that he's walking into with the best O-line in the NFL and one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the NFL. I mean,
definitely not the most efficient quarterback in the NFL.
No, I mean top 10, I guess, in fantasy, but
I don't think Bortles starts past week 3. Going forward with that one.
I mean, they might not even put a quarterback out there, and they're just gonna
snap it right to Fournette and just run up the middle.
Yeah, I mean, what else you gonna do? Why bother? Put an extra blocker out there, save anybody else, and just get an extra blocker.
Yeah, that's when your coach comes out and says you want to run it or you want to pass it 0 times, that's not a good sign, especially in today's NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, let's be real.
No good.
So, I mean, other than that, I mean, Fournette's kind of one of those guys, you either love him or you don't. You're either going to jump on the bandwagon or you're not. Who knows? Some leagues, if you play with a bunch of savvy veterans, a bunch of older guys who don't really like the rookie running back crowd, Fournette might fall to you in the late second, early third. I mean, if you could grab him there.
He does, which I don't get that, man. These old people just, they don't like the rookies because
they're like Tom Coughlin.
Because they're
Marvin
rookies.
Lewis?
Yes. Oh, that's a rookie. Well, no, man. It's a different NFL. Rookies perform at every position these days, except tight end, which we'll get into.
Do you think Chris Ivory, T.J. Yeldon take away from Fournette at all?
Chris Ivory is horrible. And the fact that
they paid him a lot of money to be horrible, though.
2 years ago, before Fournette came in, and the fact that they gave him the starting
new coaching regime too. You don't spend a 4th round pick on somebody you're not going to use, right? Yeah. Fournette's kind of a different back here because he's going so high in drafts. If you had to pick the number 2 rookie running back this year that you'd want on your team, I mean I don't think either of us are really that high on McCaffrey just because Stewart's still lingering around in that offense. I mean, I think it comes down to Cook and Mixon, right?
Yeah. Yes, it does, and I think this year, I think you want Cook for this year just based on the situation right now. I know the line is horrible. Murray's there, but he hasn't really been practicing too much yet. Mixon is just, he's an animal. And he's going to be, I believe, the number 1 running back out of this rookie class. I just don't see him getting his opportunity this year. Marvin Lewis doesn't give it to the rookie. They have Jeremy Hill there, Giovanni Bernard there. Unless he just comes out and he's that good to where they can't do anything else but give him the ball because he's just that good. I don't see it. I don't see the workload for him. They're gonna wait until Jeremy Hill's gone.
So you would take Cook over Mixon?
Yes.
In a redraft league,
in a redraft 1-year league, yeah, I would take Cook over Mixon.
Fair enough. I can see I'm sure they're going to value the running back position. Another thing here, if you're looking for that, late replacement for Zeke, and you are in a PPR league, there's guys like Theo Riddick, Danny Woodhead. Let's be real. They could get you through there. Even Darren McFadden. We have not yet to talk about him.
He's going to give you value for the first 6 weeks of the year. So
and to be honest with you, and I'm going to stand on the table here and say,
don't break it.
I think Alfred Morris is going to be the guy that you want in Dallas.
I don't know why they haven't given him a straight shot at that number 2 job. He was a 1,000-yard rusher every year he was in Washington, and he comes to Dallas, and they just put him on water boy duty for no reason. I get he's not the best, most efficient runner, but he got the job done in Washington. Give the guy a chance.
I say Morris. To be honest with you, I think if I could say anything here, I would avoid the situation like the play. I wouldn't take Zeke. You're going to have to jump on Darren McFadden a lot earlier than what you would have wanted to because somebody's going to say, well, hey, here's another guy, late round, sleeper here, quote unquote, Jaquiz Rodgers. Doug Martin suspended. Rodgers, he's a serviceable guy, especially in PPR. He catches enough passes. He could get you through. So if you guys do take Zeke, against my warning, maybe you go with Jason's strategy. There's a couple different options there for you. Also, we'll give you a couple sleepers here. Jay, who do you got for running back sleepers this year? If you had to pick one. We'll get into sleepers a little bit later on in a couple more episodes, but just give us one right now.
Oh, you're speaking of Jaquiz Rodgers. One of my sleepers is Doug Martin, actually. And I think, the guy he's on fire right now in training camp. He's got everything to prove coming in this year. He's going to miss the first 3 games. So, you got that to worry about. I feel like once he comes back, he's going to be a top 5 running back. You've seen it out of him before. You know he can do it. He's got extra weapons around him now in the passing game. And he's just going to feed him the ball. They want to be a run-first team. And the guy's an animal. Every year he's produced. His rookie year and then his contract year, he's got something to prove. All reports out of training camp are he is just running like a new wild
man possessed.
Yes, and it's the muscle hamster. The muscle hamster's back, baby. He's
yeah,
back.
Doug Martin, you get late though. He's going, quite late.
Absolutely, and I think that's what certifies him as a sleeper. There's different types
high
of
upside.
sleepers.
He's a high upside.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not giving up one of your starters to get him, and he will be one of your starters come the end of the year. And I think if you don't get him on your team for that specific reason, you're just messing up. I think you can, if you make a point to draft him, you can skip over a couple running backs to load up on receivers and feel okay, making sure you get Doug Martin, making sure you reach that round early to get him.
What round would you take Doug Martin in? The earliest round that you would take Doug Martin?
7th round.
7th round is the earliest that you would take him?
I feel safe taking him in the 7th, yes.
I'll tell you what, I think my sleeper is going to be a little bit better than Doug Martin, and that's Amir Abdullah. I like Abdullah this year. I know he only played 1 game last year. The thing that really got me is Bruce Arians he stood on the table for Amir Abdullah, and they took him the pick before where Arians wanted to take him. Then he took David Johnson. So Bruce Arians thought that high of Amir Abdullah to take him ahead of David Johnson. Hey, there's got to be something there. Last year, I think, to be honest with you, if Amir Abdullah's healthy, I think he takes over the pass catching down. I think he takes over Theo Riddick's job as well. He could get you maybe 12 to 18 points a week in a PPR league, and he's going pretty late. To be honest with you.
Because he can't stay healthy. You can't blame the ADP right now, but
he's also a Detroit Lions running back.
He does have the talent and skill set to be a 3-down back. I think everything is there in the making to be a potential sleeper like you're talking about him. The only question I have is, can he stay healthy?
But if you could get Amir Abdullah for your running back 3 or running back 4, I feel as if you could do much worse.
Absolutely. If you believe in him and you see the talent there like you should because it's there, and you want to take that flyer on him as your 3 or 4, absolutely.
Another high upside pick, I'd say. We could see Zach Zenner, vulturing some touchdowns. Theo Riddick might come in for the 3rd down passing work.
Theo Riddick is a perennial top 16 PPR back. So there's that. But Abdullah does have, like I said, the skill set to take some of those away. And I don't know if they want to go to a 1 running back backfield, or if they want to keep the 3rd down back to take some of the load off of him. It's a very big dink and dunk type offense with Matt Stafford and Jim Bob Cooter running the offense.
Gotta love Jim Bob.
It's one of the greatest names to say in the whole NFL. So I just had to get it out there while we're talking about
it.
So.
It's not a fantasy episode if we don't mention Jim Bob Cooter. So that's for sure. But here, like we said, there's a round for everybody. Just because we tell you we love Amir Abdullah, please don't draft him in the 1st round or the 2nd. Hell, even the 3rd.
Draft him in the top 6.
I'd say maybe 6, 7, 8, somewhere in there. He's serviceable for it. He's still a young back. I don't think he's scratched the surface on what he could be. High upside pick. Just don't bank your season on it like we. Alright, so that wraps up our quarterback and running back portion of this. Like we said, check us out. J&J Fantasy Flyers Facebook page. We're going to have all our rankings listed. Stay tuned. We're going to have our wide receivers and our tight ends and wrap up and everything here. And we also have some bold predictions here. And Jason's got a couple bold ones for you.
I'm a bold man.
Remember,
Bold man.
J&J Fantasy Flyers, helping you soar above the competition.
Find us on Twitter at Fantasy Flyers. That's Flyers with a Y.
Or you can check out our YouTube page as well. We're going to get that all up there going for you guys. Make sure you stay tuned. Check out part 2. Fantasy Flyers, soaring above the competition.
See ya!